Hello and welcome to the Women Changing the World podcast. I'm your host, Olivia D'Souza. In this episode, I am talking to Petina Tieman. I did mean to ask you, is that how you say the surname?
Correct. Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So, Petina, tell me a bit about yourself. Who are
Hey,
you? What do you do?
hey there, Livy, and thanks to Peace and Katie for the opportunity. I'm a very proud Aboriginal woman, but I'm one of those fair-skinned, blue-eyed, blonde-haired blackfellas of Tasmania. So I don't look Indigenous. Many people don't see me as being an Indigenous person. And I am a crazy serial entrepreneur, as Femme Economy call me. I own and operate 7 businesses, about to launch 2 more. And I get bored very easily, so I keep myself and my husband on our toes all the time. And I live my life through every day with my passion, which is to build business and empower people. And yeah, love what I do. It's never a job for me. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
That's staggering. The first thing I think of is that you must have really great, I guess, organization and people skills because you can't physically do everything in all the businesses. You have to work on them, not in them. You've got 7 of them, about to be 9. You must be very good at managing people.
Yeah, look, we have a decent sized team. I've only just recently engaged an executive assistant. Prior to that, I was doing all and most of it myself. I do all the stakeholder and client engagement. So I personally mentor more than 300 people a year. And they're on like fortnightly rotations, and I travel extensively into remote community to do my work. But I very happily do long hours, 7 days a week, and yeah, I just absolutely love what I do.
Wow, that's staggering. But obviously, it's not like it's just what you love doing. It's your passion. So, wow, I'm glad that you have contributed to this book because you saying that, I just want to learn from you and find out how you tick and what is your story. That's absolutely blows my mind. Okay, so what story do you share in the book?
Sure. So in the book, I share my personal story, which is the catalyst to drive and power me through my everyday living. And that was, that my life started in tragedy with my father being killed at age 21 in a car accident when mum was 5 months pregnant with me. And from an early baby age, mum left me with family members to move to another state, find another husband, and my life started with abandonment and rejection, and I've had 5 stepfathers who were physically and sexually abusive. I was raped at 16. I was raised to be racist against black people, only to find out in my mid 30s that I am actually Aboriginal. And it kind of then all made a bit of sense of why I was just so disconnected from life. And, my journey of life has been with a mother who herself, she was raised through the school of hard knocks and experienced a lot of life challenges at an early age. And so she became this woman of stone, and she raised myself and my younger sister, emotionally detached. Every time she broke up a marriage, we would have to be uprooted from school, uprooted from family, extended family, friends, that new stepfather and his family, and move to another town and start all over again. So I was raised to be emotionally detached and fearful of forming emotional attachments and friends and family, because it's only short lived, and then you move on and to another family and to another town, and you have to start all over again. So and then at age 15 again, my mother abandoned me to completely move some 1,200 kilometres away and had me bored with strangers while she went and found another husband. And yeah, this one had actually been in prison for killing somebody in the past. So he was a pretty tough person on us girls. And, that as much as that's a toxic upbringing, and then further added to that was the fact that I was raped by my employer's older son, and he bullied me and pushed me into that victim world at school, when I was my 15, 16 year old. And, that life journey into becoming a young woman was completely destroyed for me. So I took all of that life's journey to go, well, I can either end up in the street and, been doing drugs and all sorts of things, or I can change my world. And I knew that I had to cut my ties with my family, or in particular my mother, and find a new me. And so I began the world of spiritual healing, and I did a lot of Reiki and crystal healing and spiritual, past life regression, all sorts of things to identify who I am and what I want to be. And it was really amazing. I ended up with a husband who, from the early age of 16, and, he was a rock. He didn't hurt me, didn't swear, didn't drink, didn't smoke. But because of my upbringing, I didn't know how to cope with that. So it wasn't enough. It wasn't volatile and toxic. It was something completely foreign to everybody else. It's normal, but he wasn't, and in my world. And yeah, so I stuck with him for 10 years, but it was a pretty up and downhill journey because I was still figuring out who I was. And I ended up leaving him when my daughter was 3 years old, and yeah, raised her as a single mum. Because of my childhood upbringing, I couldn't risk exposing her to potential harm of any new man or stepfather coming into our world. So yeah, during that time of being a single mum, I decided to reinvent myself and then put myself through a whole bunch of qualifications. And I rang a 1300 helpline because I was absolutely desperate, and a clairvoyant told me I would be up standing in front of a room teaching people and presenting and speaking and being a keynote speaker. And like, yeah, whatever. That was totally no way. And yeah, now I hold 14 qualifications. I regularly am a keynote speaker. I am included in leadership roundtables with government. I am a qualified life coach, counselor, business mentor, and a whole bunch of other things. So I provide a holistic solution, a complete business solution for all of my clients. 80% of them are women, 60% are remote community people. And it's that counseling, the life coaching, the business mentoring, all wrapped into one, because I've been there, done that, and nobody was there to help me. And I didn't know who to reach out to help, ask for help, other than a clairvoyant who was in America. And so, yeah, I've made my life's purpose now to wake up every day and just help people. I help the disadvantaged, I help the marginalised groups. And I don't worry about the money, because it'll happen, It's just I'm living my dream of building an empire that is there to help other people to get through the challenges that I couldn't get through. It was a really tough journey, and yeah, I'm proud of who I am and what I've become and what I'm still learning to do. And how much, the more I learn, the more I share, the more I have, the more I can give. And it's just, yeah, it's an amazing life experience to be able to realize that you have an option. You could end up in the street on drugs, or you could reinvent yourself and study and learn and work with some of the world's masters, and just take that journey, confront it head on, and go, I want to be the best version of me. And that's what I do.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I could interview you for a lot longer than I've got, because I would have. There's so many questions. Okay, so you were needing help. You called randomly. You called a clairvoyant who told you these things, which you've ended up doing. How did you come to have these 7 businesses and be in a position to help others?
So 11 and a half years ago, I met my husband online, and my current husband. And I said to him, hang on to your hat and enjoy the ride, or get the heck off, because I'm spiritual, I'm spontaneous, I'm random, I do what I want, when I want, how I want, I don't conform. And I'm very lucky. He has been my biggest supporter and also my biggest challenge. He has a bunch of challenges himself, but he has enabled and empowered me to continue my journey being the best version of me. And so when we hear recurring feedback from business owners that I work with saying, there's no this. So say, for example, a couple of weeks ago, 6 months ago, I had some key stakeholders from Port Douglas approach me and say, can you help us understand how to replicate the hub that you've built in Cairns? And so they said, because there's nobody there to support all the business owners that are really struggling, the COVID impacts and the 2019 monsoon trough. Had a chat with them, and that, continued on for several months, and they didn't have the money, they didn't have the resources, didn't have the skills and knowledge. And I went, okay, I'll build it. Right. So now we're about to build a hub in Port Douglas. And then we had the same situation in the NPA, which is Northern Peninsula area. So the 5 key remote communities at the very tip of Cape York, where we have a lot of clients. There's a constant recurring problem that they don't have access to computers or internet. They can't print out forms. There's no JP to sign forms. There's no access to data for them to have Zoom meetings to be able to do business. And I went, you know what, I'm going to build it. So I came home one night. Waited till my husband had a couple of glasses of wine. I went, oh, guess what?
Guess what?
I decided we're also going to set up a hub. And by the way, I'm flying up to meet with the board of directors next week of a particular corporation up there, and we're just going to do this. So, we've gone from 6 years ago. We went into business with the devil, didn't do our due diligence, didn't understand this person. We ended up losing everything within 3 months, and we had $700,000 of debt and 23 creditors. We didn't go bankrupt or insolvent or anything. My husband, with his pride, said no. We have to trade out of this, and we've got like $30K left to pay out across 2 creditors. Everything we own now, we've done without credit cards, without being able to get finance or, all those sorts of things. So everything we have, we own. But it's been a tough journey, and you have to, when you go through tough times, you have to learn the best experiences out of that and turn it into a positive, so that you can become resilient and you can recover from any challenge. And so now, my husband puts his head in the sand every time there's a challenge or a problem. I confront them head on and go, yay, cool.
I'm making a business that'll solve it.
Yay, here's another business opportunity. Ding, 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 and we just sort of, Kevin Costner Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. And all of these things just happen. We're not funded by government. We don't have private investors. We bootstrap everything we've got, and it's so empowering because it's ours, and we've done it, and we've done the hard yards, and and that's why I wanted to share my journey through this book, was because there are so many people who can't access investors or finance, or they don't have a support network. They fear being judged all the time, and they've got yucky stuff that they've experienced in the past, or bad things they've had to do. And so there's always that mental blockage there of, if somebody finds out, they're going to judge me, they're going to hate me, it's going to ruin me. And I'm instead going, I'm proud of the things I've had to do and the shit I've had to go through to become who I am today. And I'm proud to share that with anybody and everybody else, because why hide? Why pretend to be somebody I'm not? I own it. It was my past, it's my future, it's my present. And if I don't own it, I'll never power through it. And that's what my life is all about, is powering through the other side of the challenges, bringing people along with me. I don't care if they pay me, they don't pay me, don't care. The reward is in my everyday living through my passion and helping disadvantaged, marginalised people to become something they never dreamed possible.
I feel like everything you say is quotable. It's beautiful. It's like you've got a gift to be able to do that, but be able to, obviously, initially you were in a lot of trouble financially, but be able to do those things and do it in a way that is sustainable, so that you can keep, financially and every other way sustainable, so that you can keep being there and helping people. I think going back to your rough start with your mother and the stepfathers. And I I think when it comes to our parents, we want them to always love us unconditionally, and we kind of expect, but they're our mum, that's our mama, our dad, they should love me. And sometimes they're just your parents because, you know, they made a baby. but
Yep.
but they've got their own history. And your mum sounds like maybe she was a victim and troubled herself, but that doesn't make it, right. But how do you feel about your mum now, and how do you feel about, are you able to, do you forgive the people that have hurt you? How do you wrap your head around that stuff?
Yeah, so you have to, through to heal through your own journey, you have to be able to forgive those people that have hurt you, because otherwise you're holding on to such hatred and resentment and contempt. And when you have that negativity and that toxic in your mind, it's very hard to be the powerful, positive, independent, strong person that you can be. So, I confronted my mother several years ago, and, she wasn't expecting it, but there's always this issue between us, unspoken words, and, I couldn't deal with it anymore, and I just had to confront it. And, I said to her that I'd forgive her for not believing me that I was raped, and saying that it was my own fault. I probably deserved it when her husband punched me in the back of the head for dinner being late for 10 minutes. She needed to do what was right for her at that time. And, but she also had to understand the pressure and the pain and the damage that it caused to me. And I'm not holding her accountable and responsible for that any longer. But I had to be able to forgive her in person to her face to be able to move on in my own life. My mother and I are extremely estranged. We are lucky if we send each other a text message for our birthdays. There's just so much stuff that mum thought she was always doing what was right for her, and she thought that she could also do the best thing for my sister and I. In her world was always about her career, and she would be working very crazy hours whilst we were getting hurt in the home by a stepfather or stepbrother. And um, you know, mum was the very best at what she could be in her career. She was number one in real estate sales and all these sorts of things. So I was raised to always be the best I could be as well. And I always sought for her approval and her love and her support. But, I used to ring her crying, and when we're miles away from each other, and I was absolutely desperate, and I'd ring my mum and I'd be crying, and she'd just say, suck it up. You've got this. You can deal with it. We've all been through hard times, and I'll talk to you next week. And it was, as much as that is hard to accept. And, at the time, what that does is make me find the solutions myself. It makes me become, all of that has built me to be such a resilient, strong, independent person. And sometimes that's to my detriment as well, because I'm too strong, too independent, too much of a powerhouse. But I've kind of built myself within the business community now, that it's kind of like, well, if I can't inspire people and motivate people by hearing my journey and my experiences and how I've powered through things, if instead I'm going to be judged, well, that's on them. I help so many other people. And, if my mum wasn't the person that she was and that she still is today, I wouldn't be the person that I am. If I didn't go through those horrible, traumatic experiences as a child and as a teenager, I wouldn't be who I am now. And, I, yeah, sometimes it's a lonely journey, Livy, but it's a powerful journey, because it doesn't matter what I'm faced with. I know I can get through it. I'm still, every so often I'm faced with some pretty tough challenges, that would rock the world of many other people. And I go, I know I can do this. It's just a process. I have to learn from this, and then once the universe sends me the message, and I'm such the queen of manifestation, right? I believe in, right, that's what I want, cha-ching, I get it, and that's worked for me for everything except losing weight, right? But as long as I am in tune with myself and am in tune with what the universe is telling me, I have survived so much. And yeah, it's difficult being estranged from my mum and estranged from my sister, who has turned to the world of drugs to cope with her childhood past. But I'm okay with who I am.
Well, can you have your own podcast and keep talking? I love it. So what feeling does it give you to be helping people today? What does that do for you?
Oh, it's my reason for being. I have a tattoo on my arm that says lives changed, people empowered. That's who I am. I wake up every day not knowing. I don't even look at my diary. I just rely on my EA. And I don't know which person I'm going to help today, but I know that there's always people I need to help. And most of those people wouldn't be supported by other consultants or mentors or counselors because of the judgment, or because they don't understand them or they don't resonate. So, to give you an example, there's a couple up in remote, and St. George financed them a $120,000 vehicle, and I wouldn't even be able to get that kind of vehicle on the money that I earn in my company, right? And anyway, in addition to that, then the Queensland government said, okay, well, we're going to put you on a novated lease. Now, these people haven't been educated. They didn't go to school. They didn't finish school. They don't understand contracts. They don't understand money. So money was coming in and out of their bank account. They saw money coming in and out. They assumed everything was okay. They don't know numbers. They don't understand financial literacy, or, and English is a second language. And in culture, it's shame job to ask questions when you don't understand, especially when you're talking about paperwork, right? So anyway, they got a call last Christmas from a mercantile agent who was going to come and collect the vehicle because of non-payment. Now, they didn't understand a lot of stuff, and so I've then represented them for free to contact St. George, to contact RemServe, Queensland Government, to help them understand about remote community people, but then to help the remote community people to understand why it's gone wrong, and being that conduit between First Nations people in remote and government. But it's not just First Nations, it's also small business owners, in regional areas who just started a business, and they don't know what their compliance obligations are. When you register a business with fair trading, you're not told you must do this, and this to follow the laws, right? It's just an expectation as a business owner that you would know all of these laws you have to follow. But these small business owners get themselves into so much strife in regional areas, and they don't know who to go to because everybody costs money. So I'm that conduit where I'm able to say, hey, did you know about this free government service, or did you know about these free resources, or okay, these are the steps you need to take, and to be able to, I've never paid a cent for advertising, Levy. We're on the way to 1.3 million turnover this year, and I haven't paid for advertising or marketing because we get so many referrals, and it's because of the way we operate that we don't need to pay for marketing. It's just, the referrals, because of the outcomes that we achieve for our clients, and they're genuine, they're long lasting, and the relationships are great, and hope that answers your question.
I feel like people could come to you and release any shame they've got, because you've had that childhood, which a lot of people, even though they're the victim and the shame belongs to, if it belongs to anyone, it's the perpetrator, not the victim. But there's a lot of, it's hard to come to that point where you realise that and can release it and be open. And then you've had where you went bankrupt and clawed your way back from that. And you can really relate to people, and they can let go of having to feel any shame, and they can just bare their soul, be totally open and honest with you, and there's no judgment, and you help them. That's you'd be a godsend to a lot of people. How are we going for time? We're running out of time. Do you have any message that we haven't covered that you would really want people to know?
Well, I think, through COVID, what I've seen is a lot of marriage breakups, and a lot of that tends to be there's an enormous amount of support for women. There's very little support for men. My husband has had 2 mental health breakdowns when we lost everything on the Gold Coast years ago. He's narcissistic, he's addicted to alcohol, and he's Gemini. So I've got and he's 3rd generation military. So throw all of that into one basket, and I've got the biggest challenge of my life is my life partner, right? But he's also the best supporter. But so many people, husband and wife couples, go into business together. And, Alan Pease, the world famous body language expert, taught me once something that was absolutely amazing, and it's just stuck in my head, about us women who are in business tend to think with the male brain during our business day. When we get home from work, we are still carrying the male brain. We don't flick a switch and go, now it's time for me to be the woman. It's time for me to nurture my family, nurture my children, nurture my husband, be that soft, nurturing, loving person. We're still in that male-dominated brain when we get home. And so what ends up happening is then the male loses his sense of purpose in the home life, and you end up having this husband and wife who become best friends, and they lose that relationship, they lose the intimacy. If they're in business together, they haven't clearly defined their roles and responsibilities and communication. So the women end up becoming strong and empowered and leading everything, and the man who's typically raised to be the leader, and the stronger one, is now going, well, what do I do? And I think that's one of the key messages for the audience, is that always try to be objective and neutral, and reach out for help and ask other people who are objective and neutral to your family and your situation. Because if you can find somebody that you can be totally true, honest and raw with, I've had couples that come in here and say to me, our business is dying, sales suck, the staff are useless, blah, blah, blah. And it's actually the husband and wife couple who have not clearly defined roles, responsibilities, communication boundaries. They talk about business in the bedroom, they talk about it in the bathroom when they're getting ready for work, and all those sorts of things. And it becomes really, really messy, and business consumes them, especially through COVID, when there's so much uncertainty and so much loss. So I think for the listeners, just never be afraid to reach out and ask for help, because there are those people out there who don't judge, and can support you and, connect you with so many different people. But you just need to be able to clearly identify what it is that you're doing wrong, or what it is that you need help with. And don't be afraid, because life's an amazing experience if you welcome the negative as well as the positive.
Welcome the negative as well as the positive. Wow. All right, so how can people find you and connect with you?
Okay, probably the easiest way is either to Google stalk my name or Facebook stalk my name, Petina Tieman. So that's Petina Tieman. And my business is called Complete Business Solutions. So that's Petina at completebs.com.au. Yes, very deliberately. If I've got one more minute, I'll touch on a really funny story just to finish it off.
Yes, please.
I was born with the initials PMT. I married the milkman, literally. My first husband became PMS. I got rid of him and I went back to PMT. And now, I had a business in Sydney that was a graphic design business. I called it Designs with PMS. And I used to walk into big boardrooms of corporate organisations. Hi, I'm Petina from Designs with PMS. Now I'm Petina at Complete BS. And, Yeah, my husband was nervous because we do so much work with high-level government stakeholders, about that sort of URL, complete BS, and they all love it. They do exactly what you did. It's a great icebreaker to have a laugh, and I actually spell it out over the phone and go, yeah, complete BS as in ding ding, yes, just like you. And it works.
And that was intentional from the beginning?
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Yep.
Easy to remember.
It is, yes. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And also, if anyone wants to buy the book, Women Changing the World, there'll be show notes in the podcast and on YouTube, so it'll be easy to do.
Yeah,
thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Livy. Thanks to the audience.